lit on the table for all of you to look through and consider. I'd also provided this to Attorney Sam Jandt and to our HR Director Tess Kruger just for their glance on it to look at going forward. We've got we'll have an interesting issue coming forward with, and everybody got the email, I'm assuming from yesterday, Glenn Cruz's resignation from the Planning Commission. One of the things that we need to look at going forward is having a policy or procedure in place for appointing people to committees. And so I just kind of threw this together last night, or yesterday I guess I should say, and provided it to the attorney and to our HR director. Is an example of how this possibly could go for interviewing candidates for the Planning Commission. You have it, you can read through it. I can provide this for the press as well as for the record too. But basically just implementing, conducting a fair and transparent process of selection to the public will have faith in the appointees. Re-interview all the candidates that applied for a sitting for the appointment of District 4. And to interview committees shall consist of the commissioner from the district in which the Planning Commission vacancy is being filled, which would mean, like for example, from District 3 you'd have Steve Schultz, so then Steve would be on that one as it's his district. Teresa would have been on 4 for her district. And then the commissioner from the board who sits on the Planning Commission, which in this case is Dana. And in the event that the board member from the district that has a Planning Commission vacancy also sits on that, so if a vacancy was from Dana's district, he also sits on that, then the board would appoint an additional commissioner, so we always have 2 commissioners on that. And then it would also consist of the Planning and Zoning Director, in this case Aaron Locker, and then Human Resources Department Head Tess Kruger, to assure the process is being followed. And then interview the candidates from the district in which they're applying in the event that a failed search of applicants would be reopened, or candidates may be chosen from other district pool, and that would be a board decision. So, like I said, the example then would be like District 3, the committee would consist of Steve Schultz, Dana Chomey, Aaron Locker, and Tess Kruger. District 4 would be Teresa Walters, Dana Chomey, Aaron Locker, and Tess Kruger. So, just kind of an example of going forward that we have a fair and equal process all the time, consistent, that we don't every year do it differently. So, like I said, that was provided to HR, to the county attorney.
What was their input on it? Or you just gave it?
Well, I gave it to Attorney Jandt. He emailed me back, and I won't put words in his mouth if you'd like to comment. But
well, just that it's always good to have a policy on these type of things, because then you can be consistent. And the state law says that we can have a board of adjustment. It sort of gives some organizational minimum, maximum powers of people. But then we sort of swallowed that into our zoning code, but then there's no real guidelines on that. And so just for consistency purposes, and so if somebody comes with a question on this, we have something to fall back on as a template, because there's really no case law or any authority really on a lot of things that come up. And so if we had this type of policy, again, I think it would give you consistency. And it's one of those things that is really hesitant sometimes to suggest tying future boards. But this is one of the things that I think future boards would probably appreciate, is that you would have sort of a consistent process. And so then, and I think the community would too, so they know what to expect if you're going to apply for this position, what the requirements would be and what the process would be and would not be.
Why don't we use personnel committee for this kind of thing?
Well, and maybe we should send it to personnel committee to review it and recommend something, then tells us input on that also.
I like the idea of having a policy.
looks good.
And also there's an added thing I was talking to Ms. Kruger about, is that there are other things that we don't think about sometimes, but we have to be very open in how we hire. We have to be fair to all different parties, and so it would be a good way to craft this. And some of these things, whether there could be a model for other things of this nature that we come up with. So we spend a lot of this anecdotal, but I've been told the said board to appoint that person to the Board of Adjustment. We do have a meeting that's set on the 18th of February. We can operate like we do right now, that we have a forum, but that's something I'd like to put on the radar and speak with Ms. Eric Kruger regarding the policy and procedures of doing that. But that is, the person would, it's the spot that the tradition is filled, or has to be legally by the member of the planning commission.
With that, I think that whole issue probably is something that needs to be put on the agenda for next week, so the board can talk about it. One of the things that I don't know that it's covered in there that probably should, in the ordinances that probably should be is not just having a member from the planning commission as a representative, but also having the alternate in case that individual cannot go. And the reason is under Minnesota statute, it says that the Board of Adjustment shall consist of 2 members, and then one of those members being the representative of the planning commission. Or not statute, maybe it's ordinance, I don't remember. But anyway, one of those, it clearly states that you need to have a representative on that board. So if for some reason that individual can't make it, we should have an alternate in place that they could call.
So the alternate would be from the
Planning commission. Yeah, you'd have your, just like what we do, Dana's the primary, then I'm the alternate. So we just gotta make sure that we have one primary on there, but we also should have an alternate from the planning commission ready to go in case that individual can't make it for whatever reason.
And that would make sense. I mean, and again, the statute sort of just says, and it's interesting, is that there isn't much organizational guidance.
Yeah.
But if we're going to do that, that is a text amendment change to ordinance. So we have to go through the proper notices to do it, but it's not a bad idea. Also, a thing to think about is that the state statute gives us guidelines for membership. 3 to 7. You don't have to stick with 3. It could be 5.
That's another good point too, because I know there's been some controversy. You get too small of a board, it allows for too easy to just railroad things through that. Maybe because of the Board of Adjustment, that's something the board probably should discuss maybe next week, is that Board of Adjustment decisions are final. They don't come back to the board. It's not like the planning commission. With that being the case, should we have a few more individuals on that to allow a little bit broader viewpoint versus just literally 2 people?
Well, you had raised it in your proposal regarding the policy for picking people. I think when you touched on is diversity amongst commissioner district. It would give you a little bit more flexibility that way.
Right.
But the reason I raise that is that if you're going to throw out some ideas, if we're going to rewrite that, this would maybe be the time to at least go through the thought process on that.
Yep.
If there would be some reasons to do it or not, we may end up coming right back where we're after 3 people. But it's something at least you should throw out there. And again, it's something Ms. Eric Kruger's here that you'd have to work through during the whole process. But it is something that it has to be done, I think.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. And that probably should be on the agenda next week to have some discussion and figure out. I don't know, maybe talk about it next week a little bit.
Put it under a discussion item?
Yeah, I would think so, yeah.
Sure. Just this, planning and zoning ordinance, correct?
Yeah, just the overall structure.
Anything else?